Welcome back everyone. This is looking very good. So I want to say to my beginner patrons, if you've gotten to this phase, you are welcome to end the session here because you have successfully painted the soft ice cream. But if you want to challenge yourself just a little bit more, we're going to do a few more layers. There is some details that needs our attention, and I'm going to show you exactly now. So there is a few details still missing, and that is these warm tones inside the ice cream. That's really going to help us to talk about this ice cream. And we need to sort of warm some of the colors up and just define some of the shadows a little bit more. And then there's a final possibility that I will maybe do another wash on the background, particularly on the left, to make it a little bit darker on the left so that there's a little bit more contrast in that wash. And that's also going to make the whites of the ice cream look a little bit whiter. I also feel that this background color in the end looks too yellow to me, so I might, do that extra wash with a little bit of a violet to cool this down and to mute it a little bit. But let's take it one step at a time. That is just my assessment at this time. Let's begin with these three areas that has a definite little glow to it. So if we're going to look at our mixture, we used yellow ochre, permanent yellow deep, a little bit of vermilion, and a little bit of titanium white, and that's going to give us a nice warm glow that's talking about this glow in the ice cream. Putting my thinking cap on there. Okay, so we mix that color that we're going to use now up there. So let's activate it with some water because those pigments are still lying around there. And I think I'm going to just pick up any hairs. I'm going to go in with a little bit of this permanent yellow deep. I didn't know that was the color name until I researched the pigment yesterday, just to find out what that is. And I was quite surprised to learn that it's a permanent yellow deep. I'm right, Alan. Yes, permanent yellow deep. It is. Okay. So there's three areas that has this color in there. Let's just taste it on some paper there. I think we can pick it up a little bit more. I don't want to repeat this one. And we have it in this little section over there. This little C curve over here, it might have some wax on it, but I'll paint it anyway. And then that little section over there. Beautiful. We have a very soft hue of it in this area. So I'm just gonna take out the color of my brush and just diffuse that in very softly. Very softly. Okay. Now that we've got that and our ice cream is dry, we also need to warm up this area. So I think I'm going to use the same color that I use now in these little zones and just give my shadow here under the ice cream a little bit of a warm up with this permanent yellow deep. And let's bring it down into this biscuit area here, biscuit shadow area. Very, very light wash of that. Okay, I think let's add a drop of water there. I'm gonna mix a little bit more. I feel like all of these shadows can do with a little bit of a warm up. So I'm just going to go ahead and just bring that permanent yellow deep into these squares. And it's just going to warm this up a little bit more visually. Just a little bit of a wash. Sometimes is all we need. Right. You're going to see how that made an impact just now when it's dry. Let's develop some of these shadows in the ice cream, particularly in these zones, just a little bit more. So I'm going to work with this mixture that we made. I'm just going to add a drop of water to activate it again. It tends to want to go lie in the perimeter of the pan. Let's test that color. Maybe a fresh tissue will help us. Let's just see. Okay, we need to make that a bit deeper. So I'm going to use a little bit of burnt sienna, because I still want a warmer glow to this. And we're going to add a hint of Paynes Grey, maybe even black. I did watch an episode yesterday of a professional artist that is giving the most beautiful lessons, and an entire lesson she spent just on black, and she changed my mind about black entirely. But we'll get into that a little bit later. I first want to experience that for myself. Yes, I feel that might do the trick. Okay. Right, let's focus particularly on this shadow over here. We got some information lost there a little bit. We shall call it detail. Just riding on the toe of my brush. Let's define this little scoop of ice cream just a little bit better. And then you can take a clean damp brush and you can just soften the edges in the middle so that it's not too hard. Let's look at the swirl next to it. Here we go. That feels good. I'm going to just put my brush down, pick up my clean brush and just soften it here. And I'm just going to go ahead. There's some wax there, so it's going to stay bright, so that's okay. Okay, let's move down. I do feel this shadow is also a little bit stronger, so let's go ahead and draw that in. That feels a little bit more represented, and then the clean damp brush to soften the connection line. Beautiful. We also have a bit of a stronger line here. I feel that's beautiful. Let's look at this one. Very softly. Damp brush. Beautiful. Okay. This feels a bit hard to me. We can always soften it with a little bit of titanium white later. But for now, I'm just going to play with my damp brush and soften that line. Right. This also feels a little bit hard to me still. That feels a little bit blended more. So just have a damp brush handy. This, however, does feel a little bit darker to me. So we don't want to come back with 500 more layers. So let's go ahead and punch the shadow. Not be afraid. Do not be afraid. That feels good. So 300 gram cotton paper will definitely perform better with more layered detailed work. Right, let's focus on this here. Let's bring this line in. feel almost like there's a ridge in the middle. That's a bit deeper, and we're going to use the damp brush to soften that transition, like so. And the same with this one. Darkest being on the outside. Damp brush. Beautiful. I'll go ahead and while that area is damp, I'll add a little bit more color in the middle. Right, let's move up to this one. Here in the middle, there's a bit of a depth connecting around this bend, like so. And right on the edge there. Clean brush, all the water off, and just soften the edges. Blending that in beautifully. A little bit more color on this edge. Pushing the contrast there. That makes the white part of the ice cream look a little bit lighter. There we go. And then this one right on the edge. This is feeling a little bit darker. Clean brush. Let's blend that in. Gorgeous. Right. Now let's move down to this one. Beautiful. Okay, so it's definitely a little bit deeper on the inside here. And there's some wax protecting me there. So that's lovely. Lovely, people. Let's just go ahead and soften it. Right, this one has a bit of a warm glow into it, so I'm gonna punch the shadow line and just talk about that ridge a little bit, and then I'm going to use a clean brush and pick up this warm glow color and introduce that in the middle. Nice. Let's pick up our shadow color again and just work on the contrast here on the edge. Gorgeous. Next one, very concentrated around the contrast, around the highlight, and in this middle area. Oh, got many brushes going now. Here's also a little bit of a glow here at the bottom. Clean brush, bring it all together. Just softening any hard edges. I'm going to pick up my shadow color again while it's wet. Just define the contrast here. Clean brush, just soften any edges. All the softness in your shadows is helping to talk about this beautiful ice cream. It's soft serve. Next one, we have contrast here. And right on the edge, coming down, using a clean brush to just soften that line. And again, I see this warm area down here coming through. Clean brush in the middle. Here we go. In fact, I want to maybe try and pick some color up here. Damp brush, press down, rinse it out. Damp brush, press down, lift the color up, lift the color up. Nice. Same here. Around this edge, I feel we can soften that a bit more. Damp brush, roll the water off, wash it a bit, and lift it up. Beautiful. There's a bit of a highlight there that needs to be lifted up, so I'm going to wash that bit there with my damp brush. Scrub it a little bit. Rub it off and pick it up. You can even use a clean tissue. You just press down there and lift that up a little bit. Gorgeous. Right. Now, this shadow here is a little bit defined like that. Clean brush. Let's soften that. Beautiful. And then underneath here, damp brush. Let's soften that. And it's got a little bit of this yellow in that shadow here as well. So let's just go ahead and talk a little bit about it. This one on the edge, also just underneath that rounding there is a bit of a shadow. And probably on this edge, using my clean brush just to soften that and pick up a little bit of that yellow and drop it in there. Beautiful. Clean brush, soften. Amazing. This ice cream is starting to look very delicious. I'm going to rinse that off. Let's take a sip of tea. I've been concentrating so hard. Right. Get all the brushes clean and ready. Okay, I feel that we can introduce a little bit more of this yellow color here. Warm this up a little bit more. It's that permanent yellow deep. And we can warm this up a little bit more. It's dry, so I'm just intensifying that color there. Just adding a little bit to that shadow color there that's a little bit warmer. It was a hair. Feels to me like this swirl here has a little bit more of that yellow on it. Maybe warm that up slightly as well. Gorgeous. Just in this light area, I'm going to bring a little bit more of that permanent yellow deep. Just accentuate that biscuit color a little bit more here. Fantastic. Right. I think my facial camera has gone dead, but hopefully the other one is still recording. I think we're in a good place. We just need this to dry, and when we come back we'll reassess and see if there's final details we want to add to our ice cream. But I do think we need to darken this side of the painting and cool it down slightly. Then the whites of the ice cream is going to pop a little bit more. So I'll see you guys in the next section. Bye bye for now.